What's up, guys?
Yeah,
We're choosing who's going to start the conversation. So we're here today to talk about sales and sales automation, marketing automation, how to scale your sales, how much effort to put into a single customer, and when is it the right time to scale, and what tools to use and how to do it in the first place.
Yeah, I was saying when we were trying to pick a topic, last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a new list of fastest growing SaaS companies. You can check it out. Brand24 in there. And we were like 1,000, which I was still cool, whatever. But then when we checked what was actually the metric that they were checking fastest growing was growth of employees on LinkedIn, which, is that really what you would agree is fastest growing company just by how many headcount they have? And does that mean you're actually doing things right, or are you doing things old school? And, we started talking about how automation and headcount go hand in hand rather than compete. And, we wanted to talk a little bit today about how we do that.
Right. So on one hand, you have all those companies like Atlassian, which supposedly have way over 1,000 employees, mostly probably customer success team for onboarding customers. You have obviously Salesforce, which is a benchmark for the outbound sales formula, which was presented in the very cool book called Predictable Revenue. And on the other hand, you have companies. I feel like maybe Typeform is one of the companies where have less than 100 people or close to 100 people.
Yeah, I know Slack is very streamlined with its headcount, especially in the beginning.
From friendly SaaS companies, LiveChat, which is one of our shareholders, they have probably way less than 100 people.
And proud of it as well. Yeah.
So even though they have 20,000 customers, so what's the golden rule here, and what should be a choice for your business, whether to go for a small team that's focused on scalable automated customer support, or should it be very one-to-one approach typical of companies like Atlassian?
Yeah, and I think, obviously it's not one rule for all. I think the biggest part of this obviously is what's the average spend of the client. Right. The more a client spends, probably the more attention they expect. So
average revenue per customer, right? For companies such as ourselves or LiveChat, it's probably less than $100 or around $100 a month. So the typical revenue per customer, depending on your churn or lifetime value, is around $2,000 or so, right? Maybe a little more with lesser churn.
It's even in mentality. I mean, when we use Trello, for example, I don't feel like I should even be talking to Trello customer support because it's either free or a very cost effective tool. Right. So even as a user, I'm going, I'll Google it, I'll find some message board. But when, for example, we're using User Engage or previously Intercom, the first thing I thought is I'm going to write those guys. This isn't the cheapest tool in the world. It's really good, but I want to go. So even as a consumer, the different types of money you spend even makes you act differently with the tools.
It's weird because with Google services or Google Cloud, Google Drive, you pay probably tens of dollars a month. But still, you don't expect the customer support.
Exactly.
Just because Google got you used to little human-to-human interaction. In a way.
And I think what we could you probably can talk about this more than I can, is I think one of the first questions is, where do you scale your team first? So when I joined Brand24, we had an interesting model because we scaled probably marketing and customer success before we really scaled IT. And then we switched and we scaled IT and we put a lot of focus on IT, and now we're coming back to customer success.
Right.
And it's really hard to know where to start that headcount. But, we're at the stage now. Wait, we've gone a little bit off track here. Because we started talking about headcount and how to grow a company, and it's maybe
but it's the right call because the question that we have here is whether you should aim for very scalable, automated customer support or non-scalable in a way. So the headcounts for your customer success team grow rapidly once you scale customers. So those are two approaches. Obviously, there are things in the middle, but those are two approaches that you would have to choose. What we're trying to say here probably is that it depends on the stage of your company. So at the beginning, there's little choice for you. You have to do very unscalable things, probably yourself as a founder. Although for later stages, there comes a time when automation is the right choice. Maybe not for you, but for some companies. So we just talked during the customer success status that we had that at the beginning, the way you worked with leads, you would write them all down on the board in the room.
Sure.
Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that the method hasn't changed. It's the way we do it. So what we used to do was, we were dealing with 100 leads a month.
Right.
So we used to have a method which was, let's write the top 30, the top 50 down on the whiteboard and kind of cross them out almost like Gone in 60 Seconds style. So, you were so focused on those top 50s that you remind yourself.
Glengarry Ross style,
every day
right?
you come in and you look them in the face. Exactly. But, as we've grown from 100 leads to what is today 4,000 leads a month, we haven't changed that approach. We've just changed the way that we do it. We don't write them on the board anymore.
Right.
We use tools now. We use automation. We use lead scoring to get to those top 10 or top 50 leads.
Got it. Okay. So the takeaway here is that the first of the takeaways here is that at the beginning, no choice. You have to do unscalable thing. You have to work with leads. Mick used to have a huge amount of conversations with customers, phone calls. He still does, but it's getting lower and lower as you move towards more automation strategy.
And it's like you said, in the beginning, it's really good because you learn what should be in the automation. Yeah. Unless you do it, unless you find out what customers said, oh, thank you for, or said, that didn't help me at all. That helped me learn how to generate the content and the messaging in the automation anyway. So it was valuable time, but eventually I was actually causing us to be too slow because I was hanging on to it and, we needed to amplify that work.
Right. So, let's assume that we are already for the initial 100 customers.
Sure.
So we sold our product to the first 100 customers. We know what works. We know all the right words to talk to customers, and we can put it into automation. What would be the typical game plan?
Sure. So we're actually doing this right now, so it's a good time. We're rebuilding our automation. Some of you have seen. So the first thing that we want to do is we don't want to replace human interaction. We're not looking to automate over what our team can do. Yeah. The idea is that automation is supposed to amplify their efforts. So the first thing that we do, let's say we've got 4,000 leads. The goal of automation is to drive the best of those leads to the team, right? So to start them from the bottom, when we start to see the type of way that they're using the tool, we push them towards human interaction. So a prime example of this is when a lead hits a certain score, they will start getting messages, but the from address wouldn't be myself or you. It will be the customer success representative for their region. Right. So they'll start to get messages, which is automated messages, which is like, hey, I'm Scott. I'd love to help you if you have any questions. So we're driving them. We want them to reply. But the trick is that the people that haven't got to that level yet, we don't want them to reply. And that sounds really mean, but what we want to do then is we want to drive them towards other avenues for education and advice that are scalable, that are not, tied down by time zones or working hours or people being on vacation. So we really want automation to help get the right leads to our team, but to also take care of the leads that are not there. Yeah. So we don't hire a new person for every 50 leads kind of thing.
So it's kind of like scalable way of doing things that are very intuitive and natural for some of the founders at the early stages. So, because for example, for us at the early stages, I was looking for a CMS. I was looking for our own very, very rough system of logs for customers. And I was checking how many times people logged into the dashboard, and if it was if they were logging regularly, I typically send them a message with a thank you note, like, hey, you're using the tool, fantastic. That would be the thing. On the other hand, I had people who spend little time with the product. They log in once and nothing. And there was a totally separate way to communicate with them, totally separate path to communicate with them. And we, I was asking whether there's something wrong. And so I was doing this manually. So what's really cool these days is we start to automate this. The question is, what are the typical attributes or parameters that we try to build automation on top of or around those parameters? Obviously, usage, right?
Sure. And again, it sounds really complex, and you see it on the paper, and everyone's like, "Wow, this looks." But it's really basic, like human psychology. It's so the first thing that we stopped doing is we stopped treating everybody the same. A lot of companies, and we used to be like this in the beginning, we have a very linear pathway, which is based on time. Day 0, somebody starts in the tool. On day 14, when the trial ends, you ask them to buy the tool, and so on. But actually, it made no sense to treat them all the same when they were doing so many different things. Now, the very simple one is, are they using it? We were asking people on day 14, would you like to buy the product, when we saw that they had 1 login and 0 keywords.
What's the point?
What's the point? And we instantly make them feel less valuable. But just so everybody doesn't think it's techie, imagine my example of this is a clothing store. You got a clothing store like Zara, H&M, whatever it may be. It's like someone walking through the door and you giving them a piece of clothing and saying, "Would you like to buy this?" It's never going to happen. The conversion rate is so low. You are putting a huge gamble on the fact that maybe 1 in 1,000 people, that is their sweater, that's what they want. But if your only push was towards the changing rooms, when you know that after someone's tried something on, they're more likely to buy it. So why push someone straight to the cashier when every call to action should really be, would you like to try it on?
Yeah.
And when someone's and then you've got things like, well, when people try 3 things on, they're more likely to buy 2. So why not, when someone goes into a changing room with a piece of clothing, rather than ask them, would you like to buy, would you like to try anything else on? And this is where, for example, American stores are excellent at this. Would you like any help? When you're in a changing room, would you like a different size? They let people go through the process. But, it's the same thing with SaaS. Use the information that they're giving you, that they're logging in or they're not, to actually give them a message that's much better for them.
How to determine a boundary between being helpful and being pushy? Because asking somebody when I walk into H&M and I'm jumped at the door, I would turn straight back.
No, I'm the master of the pretend phone call. When I see a sales assistant coming towards me, I'm like, hello. But no. So the first thing to know.
Note to myself. Yeah.
The first thing to do is to count it, because we've talked about this in previous videos. If one person gets offended by doing something that you think is your plan, you can't instantly switch back. Because it might be 1 in 100, which means that 99% of people were totally okay with it. And I think that's why stores in America still do it, even though some people are a little bit, I don't like it. It's probably the minority. And maybe it's 70%, but 30% like it and they go and buy. 30% conversion is great numbers.
Right.
So the first thing you need to do is count it. You need to, when you do a method like this, definitely split test. Try 2 different ways, see which ones are more effective. But I would say that you shouldn't be afraid by this. The worst thing you can have is no impact. I actually prefer when somebody replies. We've got some very risky emails in our thread of, we have one that's like breaking up a relationship. I missed you and stuff. And some people reply and say, I thought you were a professional company. And at least it still gives me an opportunity to start a conversation rather than, hi, would you like to buy the product? And that email goes in the junk with everybody else's. Yeah. So sometimes it's better even to generate a different emotion than nothing at all.
Right.
So the first thing to do is to do it and to count it. And probably I would recommend you be slightly more pushy than you think. So where you think the line is, go a little bit over.
Right.
I would say.
Another thing that's probably pretty universal tip for determining an answer to questions like this is just asking customers. What's the right approach here? Calculating, sure, it's always good, but oftentimes, even during our own meetings here, we have this problem that we try to guess what is the reason for somebody to not convert, and believe me that even for us, oftentimes we don't come up with the simplest answer out there. To talk to customers and ask why didn't you buy the product? Why didn't you test it? Why didn't you create a keywords or whatever is the question? So typically companies forget about this very, very basic thing, and I wouldn't like it to be only to take away from this video, but it is important to keep this in mind.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I learned when I was doing sales, which is a really valuable skill, is that you also decide what equals a no, what equals a lost lead or a lost client. When a client says to you, no, thank you, actually as a business, you can decide what that means. So for example, I think what I recommend is when somebody says, no, thank you, you can reach them 2 months later and see if it's still a no thank you, and then reach them 6 months after that and see if it's still a no thank you.
Right.
You're respecting their responses by certainly extending and delaying and softening the approach, but it doesn't mean that person is gone forever. I mean, and it's okay to keep in touch. I think that people always respect when they're receiving value. How many times can you mail a trial? Well, every day if they like what you're mailing them, but never if you're mailing them crap. So it all depends on what you're sending them, and that's why, like you said, reading what they're doing and trying to predict what they will find valuable is where people make it or break it in automation.
Definitely. So another takeaway here is, from last 10 minutes of our discussion, is that. You shouldn't be focused on all of the leads that you're getting, just because the majority of leads that you will be getting will be not the right fit for your company. I don't think there's any company that have over 50% conversion from leads to or if there is, God bless and good luck. But mostly the typical conversion is from few percent to teen.
On a good
14,
day.
15, possibly. Sometimes with businesses with more customer, with more human interaction, maybe 20 or something. But typically it's in this region. So most of the leads that you're getting will be not the right fit. Will not use your product. So you should be obviously focusing on the top leads, like a Pareto rule, right? The Google itself is promoting this with their SMART goals, which is a feature in Google Analytics that allows you to determine the how much of your potential leads generate how much revenue, right? Or how many visitors on your website generate how many trials. And for us, it was 13% of users on our website generated 50% of signups. So obviously we should be focusing on them. And with Google, you can set up remarketing for this specific group. You can do lookalike campaign to expand this and look for other people like the group. So with leads, it's sort of similar. We have to focus on the top leads. The question is, apart from usage, how to determine whether leads are the and we should focus on them.
So one thing that we spend a lot of time on, and we do it manually a lot of the time as well, so that's how much we believe in it, is when you do get a client to buy your service or give you money, try to take a snapshot of their journey exactly up until that point. So, you can say then, okay, well, the ideal time, you start to find this ideal time when someone was ready to buy. How many logins did they have for us? How many keywords? What features did they click on? And you start to see the pattern, which is, okay, well, when somebody's got 2 logins and a keyword, they can still potentially buy, but they convert at 0.5%. When they've got 5 keywords and 5 logins, they convert at 3%. So rather than trying to sell at the 0.5 level and pushing it through the hole, even when someone's got 1 keyword and a few logins, we're not asking them to buy, we're asking them to add more keywords, add more keywords, add more keywords. So we know we're pushing them towards the sweet spot of conversion rather than the other way around. So the great thing is when you do that, you start to learn, well, what KPIs tell me that someone's ready to buy. So like I said, for our business, it's number of logins, number of keywords, number of mentions. But just the same way that for a clothes shop, it might be the number of items that they tried on. It could be like, it can also be time relevant. So it could be on Thursdays versus Tuesdays. Every business is different. But that is the key. Once you know the stages that the ideal customer goes through, it makes your automation so much more easier because you push them towards the right panel. And it's still great because there'll be anomalies of people that buy outside of that journey. But the most of the time, what we found is the most successful is giving each lead 1 core goal. So if we know that the more keywords somebody adds up until they get to 5, means that they're most likely to convert. When they have 3 keywords, we're only talking about the benefits of adding more keywords. One single goal that we want the client to fulfill. Once they hit 5, we'll talk about conversion to sale, for example. But it's great because we're not confusing them like, add more keywords. Okay, now we want you to try PDFs. Now we want you to do this. We're giving them continuous value and benefits over things that we know will help them. So it doesn't confuse them. A lot of brands, a lot of sales emails have got five things you should be doing tomorrow. Most consumers only want 1. And they only can handle 1 at a time, and not in a negative way, but you want them to do 1 really well. And when you see in your statistics that they did it, then pitch them the next benefit. When you see that they do it, the next one. And just try not to be tempted to skip them. Oh, they didn't do those things, but we still want them to buy, so let's just go straight in for the money. We found that it doesn't really, it will work, but it will work 1 in 1,000 instead of 1 in 100. So try to be patient and a bit more confident in your process, and it works for us. That's been a major part of our automation.
Okay, a slight break. Sprawdzę tylko, czy I'll check it.
Sure.
Yeah, perfect. And okay, so to talk through examples, we use the classes to determine whether the customer is the right fit for us or not, and whether we should focus our attention. And we actually moved from trying to close every customer to trying to close only the few that we know that are perfect fit for us. How long ago was it? Like almost 2 years?
Yeah, we kind of hacked Intercom a little bit to help us with that, because we like many SaaS, many companies here will see, traffic fluctuates. You'll suddenly get a mention on Product Hunt, or you'll get a TechCrunch, and your traffic will soar, and then sometimes it will go down. And we were expecting sales to go up and down with it. A very core 2.5% conversion is 2.5%. But when you start to break it down and say, well, actually the number of quality leads we've had didn't fluctuate, and our quality lead conversion is 22%, let's not over predict or under predict. And this really helped us from that side, but it also helped us with the team, because if we get a fluctuation of 500 trials, we weren't running and hiring 3 people to take care of them, and then we would have to let them go the month after because it came down. So the same thing with the team was you handle the core, the top ones, like the ones that are primed to buy, and automation will go with the fluctuations of trials. And it's worked probably a little bit too well for us, because we are having to hire because we relied, we were targeting the really top of the funnel.
Yeah.
And now we want to give a little bit more attention as we go down.
Definitely. So in other words, even though sometimes our number of signups, for example, was like this, and we were expecting sales to go like this, when we dig down into the quality of leads and we analyze only the top quality leads that we work with, the chart could be very stable, right? No fluctuation, and therefore the sales were very, very constant.
And when we talk now on marketing status calls and customer success status calls, we talk about this. We talk about number of leads we have, and then we say, well, we can see that our class A, which is our top level, that converted 20%, are steady, but class B is up, and so on.
By the way, class A is over 5 logins from US.
Yeah, so what we did is we wanted to actually, in the beginning, it was supposed to be our top 10 leads. We had like 1,000 trials at the time, and I wanted to make it so precise that we only had 10 leads in this category, and we knew that they would convert. And it's like more than 5 logins. I think it's more than 3 keywords, and they're from America. So we actually took a non-action based demographic. And then class B was the same thing, but without America, because America just literally converted more for us.
Right.
So the aim was to have 10 leads in the group A, 50 leads in group B, 100 leads in group C, and so on. So we would, and it literally worked that way, that it was the top group converted at 20%, then 10, then 5, then 1, and then like 0.5. And our goal then was, well, how do we turn an E into a D, into a C, and push them up the funnel? And we did this very, very early on. And it helped us a lot with qualifying, even though if we got lots more traffic, was it good traffic? And if traffic came down, did we still have our core quality leads?
And the class system is a really good way also to determine whether you're getting better in onboarding, whether your product is getting better. So for example, after implementing AppQs, so the tooltips within the dashboard to show customers all the meaningful places within the dashboard on all the meaningful features, we were actually improving in terms of onboarding. More people were getting into the product, into the right places in the product, into the potential aha moments where they realize the benefits of the product.
Yeah, and I mean, we can be very, very statistical. I mean, we got to a stage at one point where 55% of our trials were logging in one time and leaving us. So we knew that was a gap in the funnel, and we knew that if you had one login, your chances of converting to a sale was 0.00001.
There was a time that it was 70%.
Yeah,
imagine 70% of your leads is only checking your product once.
And this is where our relationship came in, because you delivered the leads, and you were like, "Come on, Mick, lead," and I'm like, I don't know why they're not converting. So we had to dig in. We had to find the issue. And then that helped us kind of talk to the CTO and say, well, we'll come back to automation. Like, how much of this can be solved by just hiring more helpers to talk to customers? How much can be solved by just making that first experience better, which we invested in the automated side of that. But what we did then is we've managed to lower that now to, I think, roughly 40% now of people only logging one. It still sounds huge, right? But that 15% of 4,000 leads is another 600 leads that have a higher percentage of conversion.
Right.
So statistically, we will have increased, even if it's only by 2 or 3 sales a month, just by moving those 600 people from class 0 to class E.
So I'm looking at the conversions right now, and for January, so like 18 months ago, we had the 1.5 conversion rate from signups to actual customers, and in passing months, the typical conversion was get closer to 2.5, right? So we're getting almost twice as many customers with with the same number of traffic, but the traffic also went up. So from 20 was it 20 new customers, 24 new customers that we had in January 2016 for the international version. So outside Poland, we had 24 customers from outside Poland, new customers. So now we had 88, 86. So 4 times more because the traffic went up, the conversion went up,
but the initial gut reaction is always to increase headcount. So when sales weren't tracking with trials, I thought, I need more people to talk to those trials.
Right.
But we literally sat in a meeting and, our CTO said, well, listen, instead of hiring those 5 salespeople, let me hire 1 IT person and I will take over the responsibility of that first reaction.
Right.
I will make that first experience better rather than doing it by phoning people and saying, I can see you only logged in once. I'm sorry about that. Can I bring you back? Let's solve the problem before they have that experience. And it worked.
Yeah, definitely.
It literally worked. And now we've managed to do that. Now the top of the funnel is higher. Our class A now is 85. It used to be 10. Now we can say, well, now we've got enough quality leads at the top that need human action.
Yeah.
Let's hire. Now we've fixed the funnel at the base. Let's hire to take care of those top leads that we can't. Our goal is to predict their problem, but we can't always predict the problem of someone that's logging in all the time, perfect for our company, using all the keywords, and they don't buy. We don't know why they don't buy, so they need interaction.
So let's assume, hopefully that we got people excited about those class system, about those working with top quality leads. Where do we start? How to implement the classes? Because from what I remember, we used to research tools like the Tango that was recommended from some of our friends, but it was super expensive. Yeah. It's very good, but it's for most startups, I'm not sure if it's that affordable. Maybe something changed along the way. You might want to check it out. It will be in the description below. So you came up with Intercom Hack to use classes to manually tag leads in Intercom, and to use tool like StatBot, which is an analytical tool that allows you to analyze all the fluctuations in classes to see whether you're getting better or worse, whether you have more leads from a specific class over time or not. So
and I think the thing to know really about it is that our lead scoring system is still very basic. Probably the big companies out there, the Cisco's of the world, or the pharmaceutical companies that have so much invested into sales teams, they will have super complex lead scoring about the fact that what happened on LinkedIn, their previous 3 employees, who they're connected to, and lead scoring can be super complex. We started with the basics, which was, I have a pot of 100 leads. I want to know who are my top 10. And you start by saying, okay, well, there's my 100. How many of those 100 logged in more than once? We're down to 50. Let's increase it to 2. We're down to 30. Let's increase it to 3. Oh, it went down to 3 leads. Okay, let's go back to 2 logins. And now let's see how many have 2 keywords. And working that, forcing it, so you've got just 10, just top 10%. And then going, okay, what's the top 20%? Who's the group below them? So that was the basics of it. So if you've got any KPI metrics, logins, maybe if it's a free trial, it's usage, how many users, how many.
We also use the email itself, or form, right?
Now we do, exactly.
It's Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, or a company email like xagency.com or I don't know, cisco.com or whatever is the company email tend to convert better than the personal ones. And
that again was another part where when we had to match our automation and our lead scoring with our human team, because we want our customer success team to reach out to people and be proactive. So when there's a company domain, there's an easier way of maybe finding the phone number, finding a location so we know where they are. And chasing Gmails through the internet is super complicated, right? It's really difficult.
Although there are some tools that help you with this, like Clearbit or Klarna. I'm not sure, but definitely Clearbit is one of the ones that convert your Gmails into.
They tried to match them with business emails out there and so on. But so that was the other thing. We said, okay, well, we have 4 people in our customer success team. We have 4,000 leads. By the way, we set, this might sound a little bit contradictory, we set a limit to how many of our trials our team is allowed to talk to. So this might sound a little bit counterproductive, but I only let my team talk to 7 to 10 leads a day. Out of how many trials a day we get now?
150.
Roughly. So I've got four people, and they're allowed to talk to 7 leads a day. So that's 28 leads out of 150. Mm-hmm. The reason why I do that is because
is this 7 leads per person?
Per person.
Yeah.
So my team is allowed to talk to 28 leads a day out of 150, and not more. The reason why it's not more is it's purely math. I want my team to give a quality attention to each one of those leads. Mm-hmm. So if they suddenly make that 14 a day instead of 7, each lead gets half the amount of time. And then let's say they're really good at their job. So 12 of those leads respond, and suddenly you're becoming very, very dilute. And then it means that the human part of the business is a little bit better than the automation.
Right.
They're literally giving almost the same quality as the automation, and we don't want that. We want we want the top of our funnel to be getting amazing personalized customer, success attention. Checking like their Twitter feed, checking their business account. So we actually have to limit sometimes how many people they talk to, mm-hmm. to make sure that they don't get too hungry and they don't dilute their message too much. I've seen many companies, and we've been like, I've had to talk to team members in the past where they've been on vacation and they've been behind. Mm-hmm. So what they've done is they've taken their message, which is, hey, can I help you with anything today? And they've copy and pasted it 50 times to 50 different leads. And I was like, I can do that with automation. I could have sent that in 5 minutes, and you spent half a day copy paste. So I don't want them to feel that kind of pressure to mm-hmm. spread themselves too thin. And again, it helps, but we were talking about this before. We don't ever want automation to replace team members. It's not about cutting headcount costs and so on and right. making it. It should work in cohesion. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that we do is automation backs up our human work. So let's say, for example, you've got the top of your leads. Even in enterprise, I talk to people in enterprise, and you've got, one of the guys, Marek, Lukas, they talk to a lead 6 or 7 times, it doesn't mm-hmm. convert. In the past, those leads would be gone, dead. And what we do is then we set up an automation funnel, mm-hmm. but all the communication comes from Scott, from Marek, from right. Lukas, and it wins back those old leads, because salespeople and customer success people and everything, one thing that they don't have more of is time. They can't add 7 new leads a day, but be managing them for 12 months.
Right.
The funnel is too big. So it's good to drop them back into automation as well.
Cool.
And I think that this is not just sales, by the way. So one thing, for example, an obvious answer is we've for our post sale, we have a team. Mm-hmm. We have a team that handle our paying customers' requests and so on. And they were becoming a little bit overwhelmed. But when we checked what they were being overwhelmed with, they were really basic, simple questions. So we implemented a knowledge base. Now that might sound very simple, but we implemented our knowledge base quite late, and it's unbelievable now. We get over 1,000 hits a month from current customers mm-hmm. on a knowledge base, and it's more than the customers that we have. So it's become a huge help in automating that. So we have a rule now that as soon as a question has been asked 5 times mm-hmm. by 5 different people, it gets added to the knowledge base. Pure and simple.
Cool.
No, it definitely helps.
So the takeaway here is to use tools, obviously, mm-hmm. probably like marketing automation tools that you can use to tag your leads and mm-hmm. To set up some sort of a class system to work with only the top quality leads. And for like a basic system like this, you can use Google Doc pretty much, if you don't have that much leads. Later on, you can choose your CRM system. There's a number of those, like LiveSpace in Poland, Pipedrive, outside Poland. But how to know whether I should chase? What's the what is the thing that determines whether we should work with this leads or not, and whether and whether my business is actually scalable or not. We talked a little bit about the pricing and the revenue per user that determines whether you can afford to have people working like that. And that's one of the. Are there any other reasons apart from the money you can spend on customer acquisition?
I mean, I think one thing to remember is that certain businesses, certain products, they work with a clientele that don't particularly like to be sold to. They don't like to be pushed. They even, even some of the high level, high pricing things, they love the ability to find their own way, to make their own journey in the platform.
Right.
So clickable links, finding blog posts, videos that they can consume in their own time. And that's not because they're not worthy of the human time. It's not because they're not top of the funnel. It's because that's the way that they prefer consume knowledge and make decisions. And it's important that you always have that avenue open, in my opinion. Like even with a knowledge base, 90% of our answers will be very simple, basic answers, but we'll always try to cater to the complex questions and answers as well at the top end, because some people just don't. Some people just don't want to. They don't want to be called, and they don't need human interaction.
Right. So another reason for choosing between automated or non-automated is whether your target consumer really wants human attention or needs it, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Another thing I would suggest is that it also depends on the complexity of the product you sell. Obviously, right? If you sell, butt wipes, there's not a high-tech. It's not a high-tech product, or at least not for on the customer's end. But on the other hand, if you sell like super quality, machinery for large scale.
Some products are impossible to buy without human interaction.
Yeah.
You think about buying a car, you still literally, I still think 100% of the time, I don't even know if you're able to order a car online so far. I don't think anyone got there yet.
No idea.
But again,
it's a good question though.
Some things just require it. It's impossible to go without it.
Even though the car is pretty simple, right? It's pretty straightforward.
You would never hire, you would never buy a Ferrari online, but I'm thinking about something like a Fiat Panda or something like this. I mean, why not?
It makes sense.
You pick your color, your engines are very, very basic and so on. So, and this is always something that I've always struggled to understand is when SaaS businesses hide their pricing. I mean, I understand that maybe there's no two deals that are ever the same, but for me, it's always been a massive turn off when it's the only call to action is request a demo.
Yeah.
I don't want a demo. I don't want you to spend an hour of my time. It might not be for me.
Yeah.
So let me know if it's the right price range. Let me see a video of it, and then I'll decide if I need some help with it.
In my opinion, it's much better to invest into evangelization, YouTube videos, walking your potential customers through the product than demos. But again, there might be some products that are difficult enough to support human interaction from the sales team. And if you have a product like this, you might choose a path more like a predictable revenue path where you just need to talk to your customers and show them around the product just because it's way too complex for them to onboard on their own.
But it's like you said about maximizing return from time. Mm-hmm. So we had a huge thing in our team, which was our team was being very consumed by demonstrations of the product. So people, trialists were saying like, can you give me a demo? And you say, yeah, what would you like a demo of? Oh, just everything. And the problem with demonstrations is the expectation is to see everything. Mm-hmm. And this is very hard to deliver and very time consuming. So what we said again, being personal, each of the sales team, they made their own video demo, but they recorded it. So again, it's not quite as impersonal as, oh, would you give me a demo? Oh, here's the general one. What Scott was able to say was, I've recorded one for you. and it was Scott's voice on the demo.
Sweet.
So therefore, the one it probably took 2 or 3 times the amount of effort than a normal demo would. But now we've used that video 100 times. So we've literally saved 97 hours of demos by recording one, but not making the user feel like they were palmed off to a YouTube channel. It was still made by Scott. It was still the same voice. It still had that familiarity. And, you know, and that kind of things help when, like I said, the same thing, when you see that the request over and over and over is a walkthrough of the system, make it automated, make it in a way that can be reused over and over again. And it was the same result. It was fantastic. And what happens is then you say to the client, please watch the demo and then tell me what didn't make sense. So you've when you do have that call and that live, even if it is a follow-up demo, at least it's about very specific things. And then you can say to the client, if I solve this for you, would you like to buy? And it's perfect. Instead of having this open can of show me everything. It's right. It's again a part where automating a process can really help your team scale.
So I feel like conclusion here is that automation is good, not to replace human interaction, but to drive the leads toward and educate leads. So the human interaction is focused on the leads that are the right fit for us. And the automation is here to support both routes. I feel like predictable revenue is a lot about automation. So you can automate a lot businesses that can work with thousands or tens of thousands of customers, even with less than 100 employees, and businesses that need thousands of customer success team support to work with tens of thousands of customers. But and to determine which path is for you, there will be factors like we discussed, so price, how difficult is the product, if your customers really expect human interaction, if they like it, and I feel like this is the path for everybody. Again, the tools that we recommended will be in the description below. If you like the video, please subscribe. If you like it very, very much, thumbs up, or the other way around. This is something that YouTubers normally do. The call to action at the end of the video, although I'm not sure if there will be a lot of people who came this far. Yes. If you do, let us know. I'll be thrilled to know that somebody went through 50 minutes of listening, myself and Mick Griffin. So thank you so much for having us. If you have any questions, always shoot the questions in the comment description, or contact us via Facebook, Twitter. Yeah,
we can show you some of the screenshots of how we make things. Everything is on the table. We'll show you the statistics. You know, not only just saying that it worked, we can tell you by how much as well. Happy to share that with you.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Another one in the can.